Join the Rotary Club of Neepawa for Rotary Presents, a twice-monthly presentation and Q&A with a different guest about topics at the heart of Neepawa.
Okay, so my guest today is Rhian Beever. I met Rhian when she and her wife moved here in 2016, I believe it was, to work as a veterinarian here in town. But I've really gotten to know her better over the past year as we have been working together on the Neepawa Pride Committee. So I have asked Rhian here today to tell us about what the Pride Committee is, what we do, and the upcoming Pride event that's happening here on September the 15th. Rhian, if you would like to join us up here.
All right, so good afternoon, Rotary Club members. Thank you for the invitation to speak here today on behalf of Neepawa and Area Pride. My name is Rhian Beever, and I am the president of the newly formed Neepawa and Area Pride, a collective of two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersex, and asexual, or 2S LGBTQIA+, for short, individuals and allies. Today, I hope to inform you of our group and our purpose, as well as answer any questions you may have regarding Neepawa and Area Pride's initiatives. I thought the best place to start would be with what is Pride and what does it mean. Pride is a celebration of 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals coming together in love and friendship to display how far 2S LGBTQIA+ rights have come, and in some instances, how far we have to go. Pride creates visibility for a group of people who historically have been shamed for who they are. Pride allows us to hold space for ourselves and those around us. Pride creates a sense of belonging, and that who we are is exactly who we are supposed to be. The Pride season kicks off in June and concludes in September. All across the country, you can partake in numerous Pride events, parades, and marches. In Manitoba, the first Pride March was held in Winnipeg on August 2nd, 1987. Roughly 250 people gathered at the Manitoba Legislature and awaited the provincial government's decision regarding the inclusion of sexual orientation in the Manitoba Human Rights Code. The consensus was that if the government voted in favor of including sexual orientation in the code, they would march in celebration. If the government voted against including sexual orientation in the code, they would march in protest. The provincial government voted in favor of adding sexual orientation to the Manitoba Human Rights Code, which then sparked the first Pride Parade in Winnipeg. It's worth mentioning that some of the first participants of this event actually wore paper bags over their heads out of fear of rallying in public. It's important to recognize that the road to what Pride is today has not been a linear progression. Throughout the years, there have been setbacks that have tested the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. These challenges have affirmed why it's important for us to stand up for ourselves, friends, and community. Pride has been symbolized by the Pride flag. You will always see it flying at all Pride events. So what exactly is the Pride flag? The Pride flag is a symbol used by the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. The colors reflect the diversity of the community and the spectrum of human sexuality and gender expression. The design of the first Pride flag dates back to 1978 and has changed over time to ensure representation of all 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals. The Pride Inclusivity flag, which is most commonly used nowadays, incorporates the transgender flag and represents queer people of color. Neepawa and Area Pride was officially formed in January of this year amongst the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in Neepawa. Many of us were looking for a sense of formal community and a safe place to be ourselves without question or judgment being passed. Our goal has been to create a space where all 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals are welcome to come as they are and bring their family, friends, and allies. This past January, we kicked off our endeavor with an event at the Neepawa Public Library. There was music, food, and laughs, and good conversation. Above all, this event showed that Neepawa has pride, as 2S LGBTQIA+ people have always been a part of the very fabric of our community. We discussed in loose terms how pride could take a visible role in Neepawa and what that would mean to the community as a whole. The response from 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals and allies on this evening could warm anyone's heart on a cold January night. Our first major endeavor would be to organize the painting of a Pride sidewalk in front of Arts Forward. You may ask, where does the idea for a Pride sidewalk come from? Simply put, it's an extension of the Pride crosswalks seen across the country. All over the country, Pride crosswalks have been installed as a way to celebrate and recognize the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. By definition, crosswalks are the intersection of drivers and pedestrians. Have you ever stood at the edge of the road waiting to cross? The wind whipping by you as the cars race by? You can then understand the difference between vulnerability and power. It's easy for drivers to speed on by in the protection of their vehicles, but they still must watch out for pedestrians in their vulnerable flesh and bone state. Similarly, it is easy for people who do not struggle with discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender expression, or race to ignore the reality of people who do. A crosswalk is a reminder to those of us in power to watch out and respect the right-of-way of vulnerable people. A Pride crosswalk does the same thing and informs the 2S LGBTQIA+ community that the greater community supports them as they move forward on their path. So why did Neepawa and Area Pride choose the sidewalk to the west of Arts Forward? Well, Arts Forward is seen as a community leader for the arts and culture. Everyone is welcome to come to Arts Forward, regardless of their background or beliefs. Painting a Pride sidewalk in front of Arts Forward felt like a good entry point for displaying support for the 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals who are often not welcome or comfortable in other venues. The rainbow is a sign of being affirming, and it shows residents and visitors that Neepawa is inclusive, diverse, and a progressive community. Neepawa and Area Pride first approached Arts Forward requesting their support for the Pride sidewalk in front of their building. Once we had the support of the Arts Forward Board, we presented to the Neepawa Town Council regarding our plans to paint the sidewalk in front of Arts Forward. Neepawa and Area Pride committed to funding and maintaining the Pride sidewalk at a minimum of yearly, more than disrepair or vandalized. We also agreed to ensuring the painted portion of the sidewalk was in line with the age-friendly initiative that the town of Neepawa had committed to. This meant that the design needed to be straightforward and a white border painted to indicate that the painted portion is still a sidewalk. Neepawa and Area Pride held its first ever Paint with Pride on June 16th with the support from Pyramid Collision, Neepawa Home Hardware, Arts Forward, Public Service Alliance of Canada, Neepawa Safeway, and Jennifer Davey Aesthetics. We had about 50 people come out to paint the sidewalk, and it was such a heartfelt moment to watch all these people from all walks of life come together for one common goal. It is an experience that I am so grateful to have witnessed and to have been a part of. Personally, I've had many people approach me to say the Pride sidewalk means the world to them. It means they belong, they are important, and they are seen. You may have noticed around town that there are various businesses who have displayed a Pride decal in their business window. Neepawa and Area Pride wrote a letter to all the members of the Chamber of Commerce to introduce our newly formed group. We described our purpose and that the month of June kicks off the Pride season. With our letter, we included a Pride flag decal that if the business so chose, they could display it in their window as a means of allyship and visibility. We are overwhelmed by the response from the businesses in town to display the Pride flag. They have helped us greatly to create safe spaces for the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. Whether it is receiving a gender-affirming haircut, or being addressed by your chosen pronouns, or having your family dynamic acknowledged, every little bit matters, and I guarantee has made an impact on the people that needed it the most. Neepawa and Area Pride has also hosted a few game nights at the Neepawa Public Library since January. These have been nice evenings where all ages can get together, play some games, talk freely, and find support in one another. We have taken a break through the summer months, but we will start right back up with these evenings again in the fall. Our last big event for the summer is right around the corner on September 15th. We will be hosting Neepawa's Got Pride from 1 to 4 p.m. on the Arts Forward's grounds. This is a free, family-friendly event with community barbecue, activities for kids, including rock painting, button making, and face painting. Presentation from Veronica Jingles, drag performances from local drag queens MX Dion and Milky Todd, and Brandon's House of Hex, Flora Hex. The day concludes at the Roxy with a free movie titled Breakfast with Scott. All of this could not have been possible without our sponsors, which include Manitoba Pride Alliance, Neepawa Gladstone Co-op, Neepawa Safeway, Arts Forward, Neepawa Veterinary Clinic, Public Service Alliance of Canada, and Inspire Studios. We invite all of you to come and check out this day, as it'll be a huge first for the Pride community in Neepawa. We look forward to celebrating with our families, friends, and allies. As I near the end of my presentation today, I would like to touch on why pride is important to Neepawa. Pride is visibly represented by the painted squares in front of Arts Forward or the flags that hang in businesses' windows, but it's so much more than all of that. It represents hope, inclusivity, togetherness, understanding, and progress. It sparks conversation and challenges all individuals, whether they know an individual of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community or not, to consider how their actions or inactions can affect the people around them. To a kid or adult who is questioning or coming to terms with their identity, a display of pride colors all year round will help them to feel a little less alone. As a queer person who grew up just down the road in Rivers, I am all too familiar with this situation. I was once that kid who knew they were gay but did not have the language or the exposure to know who I was hiding inside. Once I figured out that I was indeed gay, I knew enough that the true me would not be welcome. Can you imagine hiding your very being so deep down inside, lying to your family and friends, day in and day out, just to fit the mold? The weight is immense and suffocating. If 25 years ago you told me I would be leading an open and authentic life, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. I moved here to Neepawa in 2016 to practice as a veterinarian at the Neepawa Vet Clinic. In practice, I was exposed to people from all walks of life, and at the end of the day, it did not matter that I was gay, only that I was able to help someone on their best or worst day. There is no doubt that I changed some people's views of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, because I was just like their daughter or their friend. Being gay does not change the fact that you are a human being. We can all show compassion and empathy to our fellow human. I am happy to call Neepawa home for my wife and 2 kids. My wife and I truly believe that Neepawa is a safe and welcoming community for all individuals. However, we know that we must be active in advocating for our rights to exist. Displaying outward support for the 2S LGBTQIA+ community is paramount to this advocacy. And a pride sidewalk and pride flags in businesses has been a great first step. My wife and I wear a pride flag on our jackets all year round. We do not do this so that you will know that we are gay, but for the child or youth or adult that needs to see themselves represented and to know that someone will see them for who they are. If we could help just one kid or adult feel less isolated by showing pride exists in Neepawa, it would be worth it. In closing, Neepawa and Area Pride is very excited to be at the forefront of advocating and creating visibility for the 2S LGBTQIA+ community or individuals that call this area home. We have the potential to help the youth and adults in our community feel more welcome and valued. We are your family, your neighbors, your employees, and your volunteers. We have always been here and will continue to be. Neepawa is our home, and we will put in the work to make it safe and inviting for all. After all, that is the key to creating a healthy community we are all striving for. So, thank you for your time this afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about Neepawa and Area Pride, and I welcome any questions you may have.
So, any questions?
I apologize if I used the wrong wording because it's confusing. And
No,
I know
absolutely.
you understand that. LGBT, etc.
Yes.
That's uncomfortable to say and so on, and we can't remember the names of it. Is there a word that we could use, like, would it be proper to say the gay community? Would it be proper to say the pride community?
Yeah, so I think that's a very valid question. So I think a lot of our fear or our misconceptions come from like that taking that first step to use the language. And language is confusing, and it can be at times even for us to find the right words, because our community and definition of sexual orientation and gender expression has grown, and we've been able to develop a vocabulary to describe it or explain it. And I think there's, everyone has different opinions around it, but I think the words such as, yes, the pride community or rainbow community, LGBTQ plus or 2S LGBTQ plus, that kind of encapsulates everybody under that umbrella. Not everyone feels that way, but certainly I would say by and large, that would be the terms that are most encompassing for the Pride community. Like I will refer to as the Pride community or Rainbow community, or I will use the acronym as such, which is long and
In general, most people, especially in a rural community, are not going to be angry if you're trying.
no.
They're not going to be upset if you're trying. If you say gay community, I
I
wouldn't
don't know. I think the first step is becoming comfortable with that language, and the only way you get comfortable is using it. It's practice, right? It's no different than learning how to throw a ball. Well, the first time you threw a ball, you probably looked pretty silly. You probably stepped with the wrong foot, or the ball went behind you. But the more you did it, the better you got at it. And it's the same with this,
Yeah.
right? Myself, I'm gonna make mistakes, but the best thing that I can say is, oops, sorry, let me try that again. And nobody is offended by it. I mean, I would be I would be the least offended by anything like that, because to see people around us wanting to use the language and willing to try is like the first step to taking any shroud of judgment or, that it's not something we can talk about away from it.
Pride is such a positive word,
Mhm.
so I like that I can say pride community, if that's all
Yes.
right. You seem to say that
Yeah.
it is, so I'll try to choose to do that.
No,
In the
absolutely.
future, does pride, I've always wondered, was pride a mnemonic or something or other? I assume no.
No,
P-R-I-D-E.
No.
I think like if you look back historically, the history of kind of where it started was with gay, lesbian, and transgender people, that there was so much shame put onto those people, right? I mean, we've been persecuted, we've been jailed, historically there's been terrible things that have been done to gay people as a whole, and it's I think when it all came to head in the 70s there, that the first Pride wasn't a march, it was a protest against these unfair raids and all that sort of being put on the community. And so I think pride, and taking that word pride and turning being gay, being a lesbian, being transgender into exactly what it is, which is a positive and a very human experience, that owning that word then allowed the community to grow under it and be able to have pride in who you are and be absolutely okay with who you are. Hold your head high, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. Just stand up and be who you are, and that's where pride resonates.
I realize that everyone's situation is quite different, but my sister has two trans or grandsons, and they transgendered, and we so often think it's society is the negative impact. And my sister is very, very supportive. She's a very supportive person, but she really had to get over the fact that, like, the one was her very first grandchild.
Yes.
And when he transitioned, like, she was still her little boy.
Yeah.
So she had a lot of different, she wasn't trying to be non-supportive, but in her mind, she had to struggle with that whole different concept and still be supportive. And there was a lot of anger and a lot of difficulty that I don't even know if it's been a number of years,
Right.
but they're still working on that.
Yeah, 100%, right? I mean, so myself as someone who identifies as gay or queer, I've known my whole life that I was. But if I went to my parents and I told them, they just found out. And so now everything I had to reconcile for whatever it was, 20 some years before I told my parents, 20 years, that they now had to take all that information and take it in. So I think those feelings of loss and frustration and fear, I think the basis is a lot of fear, right? And having to navigate that is completely human, because we've done a lot of that self-reflection, and you've never known that we've had those very deep, dark, at times disturbing conversations that now you as a parent or a grandparent are having to deal with. But yours is a little bit more public or visible, because that person who identifies as trans, queer, gay, whatever it is, it's all been in here and it's been hidden. And so I think what your sister has experienced is completely normal.
She almost said it like a way of, she had to go through a bit of a grieving
Like a loss.
process.
I've heard
She
that
said
from people.
I mean,
can see
even
that.
though she's very, very supportive and everything,
Absolutely.
but you're so used to saying he or
Yes.
whatever
It is a
for all
process.
those years, and then you don't.
I mean, even as someone who's been in a community for, 30 years, and when I know someone new who has transitioned, it is a process to
Yeah.
see them
Right.
as who they are.
Yeah.
If you weren't previously aware, it is a process for anybody.
For sure.
Again, a very human thing.
Absolutely. Because like we have 2 kids. We have a girl, she's 18 months, and then a boy, he's just turned 5. And my wife and I, we've thought about putting ourselves in kind of that position, right, if our children were one day to say to us that, hey mom, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, right? Like our whole life to him has been that he's been a boy. And so how do you rectify your feelings? And as a parent, I can absolutely understand, because the first thing you feel is fear. Like, how is the world going to see them? How is the world going to judge them? How is the world going to treat them? And that's, I think, the basis of a lot of our responses, no matter what it is fear-based, right? Because we worry about what can happen. And then yes, you do have to go down the line of you don't want to misname or misgender, and you don't want to mess up, but the reality is you're going to mess up. That's just what we do. We're humans. And then getting back up on that horse and trying again the next time, right? So no, completely feel it as a normal, absolutely normal human experience. And lovely that she's, that they're still her grandchildren in the end, and that hasn't changed. And that's very important, because a lot of people lose their families through these transitionings or coming out.
Yes.
Does your pride group counsel families of gay people, or say a transgender? Do you do any counseling to the families?
No, well, as of right now, I think we're very new in that, and we wouldn't be qualified as a professional
We
counselor.
can refer to resources.
Okay.
But we definitely there's groups around here that would be very appropriate for dealing with things like that. I think what our group shows is that there are people present in the community, and that we are here, and we're a place that, if you just want to come and be as you are, you're very much welcome to do that. And then from that, I think from our conversations, right, is if they need assistance, being able to find that assistance for them through various groups that are within the West Van area, but
Yeah.
also in Winnipeg, etc.
And we do try to focus on West Van resources where
Yes.
we can.
Mhm. Yes.
You stated that you knew you were gay your whole life.
Mhm.
At what, without asking personal questions,
Yeah.
at what age did you become sort of, you obviously had feelings, but at what age did you become sort of cognizant that I am different?
Yeah, I would say I was 11, and then I remember it's like a very poignant moment in my life, and I just knew that anything that I felt or was in my head, that I just had to get rid of that and keep it under wraps and never talk about it, never think about it. And then, that's really hard to do, because you fake, and faking is hard, and living a lie is so hard. And I can tell you, the greatest relief that comes from coming out, I don't think anyone else can experience it unless they've hidden their true selves so deep inside them. It's literally like having a house lifted off your chest, what I would imagine it to be, because you just feel so light, and you think, why in the world did I carry that for all these years? And because the fear of losing your family is so immense and it's so intense. And my parents are my world, and to think that they may not love me or want me to come home is incredibly terrifying. And so when you eventually get to the point where it's safe for you to do it and you know that it's time, to have your parents say, it's okay, we'll figure it out, that is the greatest response you can hear as a child. Because I'll always be their child, no matter how big I am, right? So I think, yeah, and then you start to talk about things, and like, so inadvertently, my brother is also gay, and he came out before me. So I had seen my parents' reaction, and I kind of knew, but their reaction was opposite to what I got from them. So it was, right, there's all these different layers, and then you find out my best friend, he was also gay through school, but we hid it, and we never talked about it, and then all of a sudden, years later, we're in our adult life in university, and here he is, he's coming out to me, and, you know, and he's worried, like, you know,
And
we
you
just,
lose a lot of those teen experiences when you're not able to express yourself.
yeah, you just don't, you
Have the
hide.
same experiences that your peers do.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things I've seen kind of written is that as an adult who's queer, you then spend your now out life as an adult unlearning all those habits you learned as a child, hiding yourself, and really truly finding your own self so that you can be comfortable in your own skin. And for all of us, that has a different meaning, and that has a different journey, because my journey is not the same as Rhian's or even as my wife's. So it's you really do a lot of self-discovery. You do a lot of sitting alone and talking to yourself and figuring that out. But it truly is a journey. And in the end, honestly, one I wouldn't choose any different, because I learned something about myself that I think many people never, ever know about themselves. So, on the positive note.
Anyone else? All right. Well, on behalf of the Rotary Club then, thank you for coming and speaking to us today. I know it's difficult to talk about all these personal things, and we really appreciate you doing that and helping foster understanding in our community. This is for you, a token of our appreciation. Use it wisely.
Thank you.
Thank you.